Good morning, everyone. It's Andrew Wall here. We are live on a Friday morning. I've got a special guest with me. Some of you may recognize her already. She's been on previous episodes with us, as well as she's a resident expert on CTV for personal finances. She's written books on the subject. She's been really mastering it since she was a teenager. I think how old were you when you first appeared on Oprah?
I was 17 years old when I had the opportunity to go and meet Oprah and talk about the importance of people, especially young people, taking an interest in their personal finances, all the basics, what's debt, what's a checking account. We covered all of that.
Yeah, so Lesley-Anne has an immense background on this topic, and it's really, there's nothing more poignant right now to talk about than personal finances. You know, there's a lot of people who've been really adversely affected by COVID-19 when it comes to their personal finances. You know, there's a lot of people who are already close to that line, and then you get a few cash flow issues where even though the government has put in a number of programs, and we might touch on those briefly today, to try and help everyone who's struggling, they've still got to bridge the gap between their last paycheck and when either CERB or wage subsidies or any of these programs are going to come into place. So being able to manage and optimize your personal finances right now is really critical. So thank you, Lesley, for taking a few minutes to join us today. I know that you're a very busy woman. You've got a young family. You've got a lot of demands right now in the world to speak about this topic. But I was hoping maybe you could share with us some of your top tips for how to optimize your finances during these tough times.
It's a great way to start today. I want to first give a message of positivity that we are all going to be fine. But the way to help yourself most effectively right now is to focus on what matters the most. And let me make this practical. When we are dealing with a personal household budget, it's essentials only. Any crisis dictates this. So anything that was nice to have, non-essential, that you enjoyed before the COVID-19 crisis, that's kind of what we're cutting out right now. And today, what I wanted to do is kind of walk you through a couple of quick wins for trimming your budget. These are things anybody can do that should add a few $100s back to your bank account right away. So the first tip is around just going line by line through your budget. By the way, if you were not a budgeter beforehand, you need to very quickly become one. And let me just insert a really easy way to do this. It's list all the sources of income. So for you, it might be the CERB benefit, EI. It could be your employer if you're fortunate to still have your job. Then you move over to lists of expenses. These are things that are your rent, your mortgage, utility bills. Do not forget how much you're spending on groceries and car payments and whatnot. So that's the first place to start, is you do need to have a pretty good line of sight of what's flowing through your bank account. Next, I've got a couple target areas that are real easy, quick ones. First off, if you are a two-car family, you might want to consider going to one car for so many reasons. Not only is it great for the environment, but right now you are at home. And that means that there's way less driving, no need to be, going out. And if you are going out, we all know the best practice from a health standpoint right now is actually only one person going out at a time. So to me, this is easy. You park that other car, you save on fuel and wear and tear on the vehicle, but also great opportunity to call your insurance company. You can negotiate the amount that you're paying for that extra car by telling them you're reducing your mileage, just reducing the scope of your coverage. You can even sign up for the telematics program where they track your driving and give preferential rates to good drivers. This should add, if you do this, about $50 to $80 per month back into your budget. So that's the first quick win. Let's talk about the second quick win. Eating out. If you are one of those people who is not preparing food at home, you really need to quickly become a chef here. And there's some great recipes on YouTube, but I want to just talk very quickly about why we would stop eating out. Not only is it good for your wallet, but it's also good for your waistline. And we know statistically that families of four are spending about $120 to $200 a month in this category. This is a quick win. Make your food at home, put that money back into your pocket. Nice and easy. So on the same subject though, Andrew, let me get to one more quick win. And I know you've got a couple questions before I continue on with my other quick wins, but this is another food quick win, and it's about food waste. So this week I was preparing a piece for the Star just on these quick wins. And I had a deep dive into Canadian food waste, and it is $100 per month per family, where you're literally throwing food out because you're not using it. If this is you, do not step foot in a digital or bricks and mortar grocery store again until you have what's called a meal plan. This is very straightforward. I actually make mine right in my daily journal. I write down the things that we're going to prepare throughout the week. And so when we're shopping, whether it's online or in the store, every single thing that is on that list has a purpose. Otherwise, it doesn't get purchased. Here's just another shout out to the food banks right now. I'm sorry, but if you've got food waste, you need to redirect that food to the food banks. We have over 1 million people using our food banks right now in Canada because of job loss. So please, 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 if this is you and you're like, what do I do with all these canned goods? Give what you don't need away. And then from this point forward, use that meal plan.
Well, I love that tip about the insurance, and you've got that second vehicle. Here's some money that people aren't even thinking about that you can put right back into your pocketbook with a simple phone call. I love that tip. But I think the key takeaway for me here is really being mindful about your finances, right? You know, you talk about budgeting, you talk about coming up with a meal plan. I think that, you know, if you're running through a tough financial time, you probably got more free time, which is one of the big things that you have available to you right now. And so starting to put that time and energy into being mindful around your finances sounds like it's really the key to being successful when it comes to managing or optimizing your personal finances.
It sure is. And we also know that boredom is very bad for your finances. When you're sitting around and you're online shopping, that's not being mindful of your finances, using this time to learn how to budget. Maybe you call your bank and get some free financial advice on what you should be doing right now. Let me actually get into technology for a second, because
Please.
boredom is causing people to sign up for all these streaming services, subscriptions. I can tell you, I have seen in my readership and followership, people sending me tips on and coupons for just about everything, from running apps to new streaming services for shows. Here's the deal. If you are in a pinch, I get it, you want to entertain yourself, but cap your whole streaming budget at $25. What that will get you is one service that usually streams shows and movies, and it should get you a music service. Now, are you in the best of services? No, but $25 is more than enough for any household right now to get by with entertainment. So what that will actually translate into is we're getting some statistics that show that the average Canadian family is actually signed up for about 3 or 4 additional services. So this money move will put about $40 back into your budget. And you need that right now. That $40 could go towards groceries. So on the same kind of tech thinking, let's talk about all the cable, cell phone, landline subscriptions, the family plans, all the stuff. And we're doing this right now in our household. My husband is a huge sports fanatic. Well, guess what? there are no sports right now. So we are going to be pausing that portion of our cable package. In fact, I was even talking last night about getting rid of the whole thing entirely, because all we get is it's news. So we can get a lot of that on our phone. But also, like, what are we doing? Are we using our Netflix subscription more than we're using cable? These are questions that you need to ask. But let me tell you what this money move will do for your budget. By reducing the scope of your package and maybe even bundling things up, you should be able to put about $15 to $25 back into your budget. Andrew, these things, they might seem small, $40 here, $15 there, $80 there. But what we're trying to do with these quick wins for your budget is add up to about a couple $100 for each family. And let me tell you, that could be a full grocery run for a family that is kind of in a pinch.
Yeah, I think that's, great suggestion, right? Cutting off those things that are no longer necessities. I was talking with one of my friends about this whole having 15, Netflix and Hulu and, Disney and all the different channels. And really, you don't even have enough time to watch them all. And the strategy he was saying is you burn through all the videos on one and then you move on to the next, right? So you get 1 month subscription of Disney, and then next month it's Netflix and then Hulu, and you get through all your favorite shows, one sort of channel at a time, so to speak.
That's right. So let me talk about another area that I think is a very cool way to add a little bit of money back to your budget. We all know right now, all financial institutions in Canada are talking to their customers about rate reductions and if you needed payment deferrals. This is a prime time to speak to your FI about fee reduction. So the average Canadian household spends between $16 and $25 per month on banking fees, credit card fees, transaction fees for checking accounts. This is a great opportunity to just call your FI and say, hey, you know what, we need a little break here. And that should add, again, $16 to $25 back into your budget. I want to revisit one thing that's, it's like a passion point for me. I'm a big fan of Marie Kondo and decluttering and having a lot of white space in the house. Also, I have a tiny baby who is just learning to crawl, and all the parents out there, how terrifying it is when you have clutter in the house. So every couple of months, I go through the house and I declutter, but I don't just purge. We sell what we can. And I'm not kidding you, on average in a year, I probably put $1,000 back into our cash flow by getting rid of the things we no longer need, obviously thanking those things for the utilization that they gave to us, but we move them along. And so these are things, and I'm going to list a couple of easy items. You might have, if you've passed that toddler stage, you might have an extra stroller or two that you could sell on Facebook Marketplace or Kijiji. You might have extra mats in your car. You might have designer clothes that you could get rid of. These are just a couple of ideas. What about all your technology? I recently got rid of an old tablet and 2 old phones, obviously wiping them clean before selling those phones. Right now, when you've got time on your hands, this is another great way to add some money back into your budget. And the last super easy way to add money back into your budget is to file your taxes. Everybody, come on, file your taxes. 70% of Canadians are actually due for a tax refund. And if you've been fearful about filing, don't be. Statistically speaking, you're probably going to get a tax refund. And Andrew, you might have the current to date statistics on this, but the last time I checked about 3 weeks ago, the average refund for an adult in Canada was over $1,000, hovering actually closer to $1,500. So if you were scared to file, or maybe just kind of in panic mode and just don't feel like you can get organized, this is an excellent, excellent activity for you to do right now and add that money back to your cash flow. Heaven knows we all need it right now.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because the government has deferred the filing deadline. I'd say over 50% of our clients have not brought in their information that normally would have filed.
Mhm.
So they're putting off this inevitable refund and missing out on this cash flow opportunity. Now, one of the things that I wanted to chat briefly, and I know we only have a few minutes left, was, the big question clients are asking me is, and they may not have optimized all your money moves yet, but they still need to come up with that gap between their cost of living right now and this cash flow crisis. And they've got opportunities to pull from home equity lines of credit, from tax-free savings account, from RRSPs. I've got my opinion on it, and I guarantee it aligns with yours, but I'd love to hear your opinion of, if you got to pull from an emergency reserve, where should you be pulling from?
Such a good question. I'm getting the same question as well. I certainly think of it in a stack. And obviously, your first money move is to negotiate with your lenders to see if you can get payment deferral if you really are in that pinch. Then you move to your emergency cushion. And usually your emergency cushion is, in the best cases, 3 months worth of cash that you have sitting in a high interest savings account. Then we move down the stack and we hit your TFSA. TFSA, in my opinion, is a good place to go and dip into because you get that room back right away, like within one tax year. There is a bit of a myth around taking money out of your RRSP. Some people actually don't know that you can. We really discourage it for many reasons, right? There's like tax disadvantages to doing so. But here's the deal. If you are really stuck, you actually can go into your RRSP. Now, I have a bit of an opinion here, which is you mentioned HELOCs, so home equity lines of credit and lines of credit. Here's how I treat that. If those tools are available to you and they're at a low interest rate, which by the way, everybody, here's a fast fact, the rates have gone down. And if your financial institution has not followed suit, you should absolutely negotiate with them or move that line of credit. But here's what I'm thinking is, if you're in this cash flow pinch and you have a pretty good line of sight that you're going to be out of it in, let's say, 3 to 6 months, I do think using a low rate line of credit carefully. So don't double down. This is not your opportunity to go and buy new rims for your car. That's not what we're talking about. If you needed to use that line of credit to, let's say, buy groceries right now, go ahead. What we want to have is a line of sight on your ability to pay that back. We all know that if you're on government benefits, CERB or EI in particular, they kind of tap out around the $2,000 mark. You get a little bit more if you're on EI and maxing out on that, but believe me, it's not that much more. It's just a tiny bit more. You got to stretch that as far as you can. And so working through that stack of what has the least consequences first is best. And me, I probably put those lines of credit, I would tap those first before I tap my RRSP, but after I tap my TFSA. That's how I would probably do it.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I guess, though, it depends on what kind of returns you're getting in the
Totally.
The TFSA, because I don't think you want to be selling, you don't want to be liquidating right now in this market. And I would like to wrap up with maybe talking about something positive. For those that haven't been as adversely affected, one of the hits they probably took was in the stock market. But I see that as a tremendous opportunity right now, because when the market dips, 20, 30%, that means it's going to go back up 20 or 30%. At least historically, it's always done that. So I'm seeing right now as a tremendous opportunity. But what's a good strategy when it comes to a percentage of money that you should be setting aside? And because I think one of the fears I have is that clients are going to go and just rush into this and borrow money to be able to invest in the market to take advantage of this. What's your thought on setting money aside for the future, and how much money should you be putting aside and planning for the future?
So if you're fortunate to still have work, the best practice when it comes to your nest egg, the thing that you're building for eventual retirement, is 20% of your income. It used to be 10%, but we all know we're living longer, cost of living has gone up. We actually, in the past 2 decades, have had to double that recommendation from 10, nudged up to 15, and now it's very comfortably at 20. So if this is you, and you can find that extra cash flow within your budget. By the way, here's my shout out for those earlier tips. I have a strategy to share that I think is really safe and sound. It's the Warren Buffett approach, which is you get into the market through a laddering strategy, also known as dollar cost averaging. So you step into the market not all at once, because you do not have a crystal ball. You do not know if you're buying on the lowest day or even a low day. How would you know? The market is very unpredictable. So the idea here is that you step into the market on multiple days over the next 18 months. And the amount that you pay for the investments that you buy is going to go up and down and up and down, but it creates this average. What we do know is that we are in a down market. So your average is going to be lower, much lower than it would have been last year, to the tune of 20 to 30%. What I also want to just throw in here is that by doing so, you catch on the recovery. And the recovery requires good positioning. So making sure you have a properly allocated portfolio, a slice for equities, a slice for fixed income, and a slice for cash. Those slices and how much go into each depends on your risk tolerance and your age. You do need to speak to an investment professional or work with a robo-advisor about what that is. So do position yourself properly. But if you've got this like major fear of missing out, you're like FOMOing out about like getting into the market, I want to assure you of one thing. The investment community unanimously agrees on this point, which is we are going to be much longer on this recovery than in previous recessions, to the tune of almost 3 years, maybe even a little bit more. So statistically, markets recover in 18 months. We're almost double that amount of time. That's the estimates that the investment community is putting out there. So if you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm missing out right now, don't. There's a big, long recovery ahead. If you step in 12 months from now, you're still going to get some good prices.
Well, thank you, Leslie. And I know you're a busy woman, so I'm going to let you go now. But before I do, maybe you can tell the people watching where they can connect with you, because I know you provide a ton of content online, and I want to give these people the opportunity, if they're not already connected with you, to connect and get some of that great content, because this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Awesome. Well, my team at Mevest, MEVEST.ca, we have a very active and lively blog where you can find so much information on what is happening right now, but also there's just really good information about living a very healthy financial life. So please join us at Mevest Money on Facebook. Check out our blog, Mevest.ca, and of course, you are also welcome to connect with me personally. You can send me an email, Lesley-Anne at Mevest.ca.
Well, thank you again, Leslie. I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. I'll follow up with you because I've got some interesting information I'd like to chat with you about market recovery. But we'll save it for another time because I know you've got lots of things to do. So again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Andrew.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye for now.